Joining us right now, Larry Kudlow on Mornings on the Mall. Of course, he is the host of the Kudlow Report on CNBC and also the Larry Kudlow Show right here on WMAL Saturdays at 7 p.m. Larry Kudlow, always good to have you. You're the perfect guest during this government shutdown because it's the intersection of finance and politics, and that's your wheelhouse, Larry Kudlow.
So I'm told.
So I want to ask you something. You know, we keep hearing talk of the debt ceiling, and the debt ceiling is an important and critical thing that needs to be addressed. However, for some reason, we keep hearing Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama throwing this word default around. Here was the president yesterday.
This week, if we don't start making some real progress both in the House and the Senate, and if Republicans aren't willing to set aside some of their partisan concerns in order to do what's right for the country, we stand a good chance of defaulting. And defaulting would have a potentially devastating effect on our economy.
Now, we know for a fact that the Constitution precludes defaulting on our debt. We know that we have plenty of money coming in on a monthly basis to pay off the debt holders for the government debt. So when the president says that we run the risk of defaulting, is he lying, or is he saying that that's his strategy? He plans to ignore our creditors.
Well, no, I think you got the story right. Is the president lying? You know, gee, because he's the president. I prefer to think of it as an outsized version of cognitive dissonance. I think because of my loyalties and patriotism to my great country that has given me so many opportunities, but I think he's basically full of it, and I think he's done this for political reasons. Look, as you said, we have enough money, just in round numbers, okay, bear with me, in round numbers. Every month in the last fiscal year, for example, we've taken in about $240 billion in tax revenues, and we paid out about $34 or $35 billion in interest on the expense. So obviously that is not a default. Obviously we have a pretty good coverage ratio, and therefore talk of Treasury default, which is our sovereign debt. Treasuries are the linchpin of the entire global financial system. We are the world's reserve currency, and we should not take that lightly or glibly, and presidents should not make silly statements like that. You know, I wrote a column last week. He used that to attack our markets as though he was looking for a crash to punctuate his desires. Now, I think what those guys are trying to say, clumsily, is that if you don't pass the debt, if you don't raise the debt ceiling, then parts of the budget will be unfunded for a period of time.
Yeah, but that doesn't get the headlines. You know, he says default, but when he says, oh, geez, we can't fully fund my pet alternative energy project or something, everyone will shrug.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's like, right, if I can't do another solar windmill Solandra project, nobody around the world really cares, frankly. And so that's right. That's exactly right. Now, here's the thing about this whole story. From what we know, I don't think I know one iota more than you know, but these dates have been around in the last 24 hours, and they all have something in common. All right, January 15th, the government is funded through January 15th. That's the CR. February 7th is the due date for the next debt ceiling increase. And probably around December 13th, they're supposed to have some kind of longer-term budget. They're going to set up a committee, et cetera, et cetera. What all those things have in common? They're only a couple of months away. And what does that mean? We're going to have to go through this all over again. You remember the fiscal cliff that came out of the 2011 and the super commission that never really developed anything? We're going to go through the same period all over again, and I want to make very clear, when you look at the outline of some of the stuff that's been leaked, this turned out to be, ironically, not about changing, reforming, or ending Obamacare. This is all about the automatic spending cuts called the sequester. That has become the Democrats' number one priority. They want to end the sequester. And you know what? That's too bad.
Right.
Because in the last couple of years, the one good policy we've done is we've knocked over $2 trillion out of the spending baseline, out of the baseline for discretionary spending. We haven't done this kind of thing in many decades, and we really have brought non-entitlement spending under control. And the Democrats want, they want latitude. They want to do this. They want. I mean, the reason January 15th pops up is they wanted it even sooner. Before then, they just want to get ready to knock out the sequester for the next fiscal year. And I am adamantly opposed to that. That's the best discipline we have to keep this government in check, and by the way, is pro-growth, because it means the government's burden on the economy will be less. So this troubles me enormously. This whole thing is aimed at ending the sequester, and shame on Republicans if they go along with this. Now, if you're Paul Ryan and you're willing to give up some sequester power over military spending in return for some entitlement reform, okay, like the indexed, or whatever it's called, the chain CPI. Okay, I can live with that if it's codified. I can live with that.
Yeah,
if you're telling me you're just going to waive the thing and we're not going to go back down, $289 billion is the sequester number that should rule this agreement. Now they want to. It goes down to $989 billion. It goes down to $967 billion as of January 15th. The Democrats want it to go up to about $1.056 trillion. You see, they want to raise it by 70, 80, 90 billion dollars. This has to be stopped.
All right, Larry, we're all out of time. I had a question, but we'll have to wait till next time.
Oh, go ahead.
No, we're up. We're done. We got to go. Thanks, Larry. Always a pleasure to have you. Bye.